Welcome to SpanReads, not your typical rereads podcast, a 17th shard series where we reread Brandon Sanderson's works and are giant nerds about it. Today, we are talking about Skyward relationships and characters. Joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Jessie.
Hello, I'm Lady Lameness.
Eric.
Hey, I'm Cass.
And I'm Michelle, or firstRainbowRose. This is a warning to our viewers and listeners that there will be full spoilers for all Skyward novels, excluding Defiant, and the Skyward Flight novellas from this point. So, characters and relationships. We touched on a little bit in the last episode, but I think we can all agree that, to start with, Mbot is amazing.
Mbot is amazing, and I think this is good to start with because in both Starsight and Cytonic reactions, we continually don't talk about Mbot enough, so that's actually good to do.
I love Mbot. I think I said in the last one, Kimmelin is probably my favorite character. I lied. I think Mbot is my favorite character because I love, especially, towards the end when he's like, I overwrote my command. You are now my captain. But I left the mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I need to have some eccentricities.
He's really fun. I really like Mbot a lot. And their relationship is really good. And you're just so sad when Mbot's like, yeah, no, you're going to take me to battle. I'm shutting down. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, you can't do that.
Especially the scene where she calls him up and she's like, no, Mbot, I need you. And he just radio silence and your heart breaks.
Brutal.
And Brandon has described part of the inspiration for this series is a riff on the Boy and His Dragon series.
Mm-hmm.
This is the girl and her starship.
Yep.
So Mbot being deuteragonist, I think, is the secondary main character term.
Sure.
Look at you pulling out fancy terms.
Correct me if
Comment
if I'm wrong about that.
Like or dislike this video.
But yeah, he does bring such life to this story because the dichotomy of the human girl who is totally bloodthirsty or vocally bloodthirsty. She's not actually
No, she's not
that enthused about combat. She just puts on bravado. She just wants to fly, which makes sense. And then her starship who just wants to collect mushrooms.
Okay.
The introvert and the extrovert.
Kind of.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also kind of need that character because this book is a pretty serious book. It's pretty...
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal. So having Mbot just be like, yeah, I'm just off the wall crazy is very fun and important. Not that the other Skyward Flight characters aren't fun. There's quite a few funny lines throughout, but not necessarily a comic relief character.
Whereas he's kind of meant to be the comic relief character.
Yeah.
All of the human characters are dealing with the weight of we're facing extinction, which he's not part of that.
Yeah.
Humans dealing with grief. I read that this happens. So let me do this really off the wall thing that realistically makes no sense. I jokingly refer to him as the autistic Mbot because...
Yeah. I can see that vibe for sure. It's like, oh, I wrote a whole subroutine to express my outrage. So funny.
Mm-hmm. Or when the dissertation on humans being crazy or whatever, it's oh yes, there's extensive writing about it. I just did it over the past 12 hours. There's 7,000 pages. You just came up with that. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same sentence over and over and over again as well. It's humans are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so good.
So I have a bit of a controversial opinion.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Ooh,
I didn't like Mbot initially.
Oh,
I do now. By the end of my first read of Skyward, I did like Mbot, but it's weird because it comes back to expectations, right? First time reading Skyward, the setup of where the Defiants are at technologically and the fact that they have lost basically all space flying capacity meant that I was not ready for a talking spaceship, like at all. So I was really thrown for a while, and it took me a lot of the book to get used to actually enjoying Mbot as a character, because the fact that I wasn't expecting him and then he's a comic relief character on top of it, that was a lot to deal with. Whereas now I find him very funny, but it's just definitely that thing that I remember thinking back to. And like he comes up so quickly as well. So I don't even know why I had such a strong like idea of what I thought where the book was going. It's like chapter 5 or something.
Well, he shows up, but he doesn't start talking, right? So the talking's later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So like I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. Like, oh, there's this like seemingly like super advanced crash ship, and you get that for a little bit before he actually starts talking. That it's reasonable to form different expectations than what you actually get.
Yeah. I think it's helpful if the series is pitched to him as the girl and her spaceship. Then it's like, okay, cool.
That is the thing.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's just like the boy and his dragon, right? Like Hiccup and his dragon. The dragon doesn't talk.
But the dragon talks in Aragon.
Yeah, about half the time the dragon talks.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I did always find Mbot funny though when Spencer's like, no, they have some way to record this, and Mbot just like rambles off a thing. It's like, ooh, oh, there is this whole thing here, and then he can see the whole battle. Oh, love him. Which like the radio was a very clever way to get Mbot in the story when he's stuck in a cave for like the whole book.
There's also a very good pulling together for the end to like get Cobb and Mbot and Spencer and everyone back together as well.
Yeah. I'm still not entirely sure how he got Cobb. I gotta be honest. I have never understood that at all.
Yeah.
I think Cobb just found that because she leaves the walkie-talkie like at the base, I think. And I think Cobb just finds it and sees that it's flashing.
Okay.
And then he goes to answer it because it's flashing. He's like, oh, someone's trying to call me. And then there's a voice on the other end of the line. He's like, okay. And he does the very sensible thing that every like grizzled flight instructor ever would probably do, and follows it to a cave in the middle of nowhere. Climbs into the cave and goes, this is perfectly safe, guys.
Yeah. Wow. The base is under attack, and like
they're fighting for their lives, and it's this hopeless battle, and he's just trekking across the desert, following this random voice that I would love a short story now from Cobb's point of view of just. Because could you imagine the things that Mbot said to him?
It sounds bonkers.
He wouldn't be able to explain what's going on. Like, Mbot is not with it enough to be able to like sensibly sit down and be like, okay, we have to talk this through logically.
No.
Yeah, I think that is a part of the book that always threw me. I'm like, but how? But like. And Cobb's just like, well, I had the radio. I'm like, I mean, but I feel like I need a little bit more here. Like,
it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if this actually makes sense, but the rest of the ending is cool enough that I'm not going to worry about it.
And it is really cool to have Mbot show up like that. But it's just like, I just, what, how though?
Yeah. Like, I think Brandon just wanted people to make certain inferences and didn't quite give enough there to get people there.
Speaking of Cobb, I just want to remind people his name is Matt.
Wait, what?
I'm pretty sure his name is Matt.
His name's Matt. Matthew Cobb. Yeah. 100%.
Mongrel, the M's, and I'm just like,
that's weird.
I can't like. Matt is just such a like my age and younger name. It's that like I can't imagine grizzled old man named Matt.
So there's Flight Squad. We have Judy, Matt, and then we have ZEEN.
Yes.
ZEEN Nightshade. I will never get over ZEEN Nightshade. I could talk about this for hours. Just how silly that name is.
Whose call sign is Chaser and doesn't match any of the patterns for any of the other.
Oh yeah, because Ivan's the Ironsides. Yeah, well,
I mean, Chaser makes more sense than some of the other call signs, at least.
Yeah.
There's a call sign that's drama.
That is very funny. I think this is probably one of those things where Brandon came up with Chaser first and then expounded the rest of them. And then the initial thing just didn't quite work. But he's like, I still like it. It's fine. Yeah, good old ZEEN Nightshade. Why Z?
I'd like to point it out for the viewers that yesterday, while Eric was reading this entire book, he sends me a message while I'm in the middle of D&D. That's just ZEEN Nightshade, a capital letter.
All caps, spaces in between. That's it. What more do you need?
And I do have to point out, like, every other human named character has a normal name for at least one language on Earth.
Yeah.
Where did ZEEN come from?
I don't know. Spencer's a little bit out there as well.
That's true.
Spencer is close enough to Spencer that I'm fine
it's
with
a perturbation of that. Yeah. I love just how Cobb was in this book. I love the grizzled war veteran, who really cares. Oh, I love that trope. He hits that trope to a T. Love it. But I love Skyward Flight as well. I was destroyed when Hurl died because I remembered Hurl and Spencer not getting along, but I had forgotten that they made up. They were wingmates, and then Hurl died. I'm like, ow, Brandon, the stabbing.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I forgot about Hurl. When she first was introduced, I don't remember this. I remembered Bim and I remembered Morningtide. Hudia. I'm like, I don't know who this is.
I actually forgot about Harold as well.
You wrote the Coppermind article, Jess, didn't you? Jess read this book
until
6 times.
She got her call sign. When she got her call sign, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I remember Hurl.
So funny.
And everything else about her character, totally didn't remember.
I think Bim is the hardest one by way of the losses for me. Just the fact that he has so much potential and he's so bright-eyed and is I'll get a call sign soon.
No, he didn't have a call sign.
Yeah, he didn't even have a call sign.
I just kind of assumed that he did, and then he never gets one. I'm like, oh, okay.
He didn't even get one. Brutal. Yeah. Especially when it's he was trying to flirt with me, and Spencer was like, oh, he's kind of cute.
This is a thing.
And then it's
this is
dead. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think Brandon did a really good job of not making it obvious when reading the book who lives or dies. Obviously we know in the sequels, right? We know who lives and dies, but FM doesn't get a lot of character development for most of the book. She could have died at any point, right?
Yeah.
I think Brandon did a really good job of balancing that and really making it uncertain who's going to live or die, except Spencer and Jorgen. They were going to live.
Yeah.
There's a moment the first time I read the book, I remember it. This was right at the end of the second page, so you had to flip the page to see what happened. And it stuck out to me on my reread as well, where Kimmelin's in trouble, and all I could think is Brandon's already killed 2 characters. He better not kill Kimmelin now. And I don't remember. I think that was actually, that's actually the fight that Hurl dies in. So, went super well.
Nice.
But God, yeah, I was just terrified that anyone would die.
Yeah. Arturo's really funny as well. I love my favorite Arturo line. It's I could calculate the distance to that fight easy. Hey Cobb, how far's the fight away? Love it. So good.
Why should you read your work?
Yeah. Someone else already did it. Why?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Love it. Especially because like Ned and Arturo are like just described as Jorgen's cronies, like for a bit, and then it's like, but they're so fun. So
I like that they don't stick with that for very long as well.
Yeah.
Like I can completely understand why Spencer's like, oh, they're just Jorgen's cronies, and then both immediately like Ned and Arturo, like in those starting scenes where they're doing call signs, start getting personality, and like you get it throughout the whole book, and they become their own characters.
Thinking about those two, it's kind of funny because one of the big things early in the book is Jorgen becoming flight leader and him choosing, you know, his second in command and third in command, and he immediately chooses those two. And then I don't think anything is ever done with the second or third in command positions. Like nothing comes
Literally
of it.
nothing.
But she's so pissed off about the fact that nobody else is considered, and yet nothing happens.
Like Cobb just has to ream her out. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, like, no, like they have hundreds of hours of flight time. How much flight time do you have? Oh, 0. Sit down.
Yeah.
Spencer needs someone to just like, okay, I get what you're
Calm.
saying, but like we need to
bring it down, breathe in, breathe out.
Because like he obviously believes in her. Otherwise, like she wouldn't have fought for her to be there. But also, it's like you need to understand that other people are also fighting in this war. It's not all about you.
Yeah, Spencer's arc's really good in this book, I think. I can definitely see why people find her annoying at the start, but like on a reread, it was great.
You know who I really enjoyed reading on this reread?
Who's that?
Judy Ivans.
Yeah.
She is such a fascinating character. Like she clearly holds like a massive grudge against Spencer and her family for what happened. And it's understandable why, but yet she's also like, she obviously made some pretty bad military calls, but she's also good at separating her own feelings out when she has to. And I just love the very end when they're all waiting to die, and then she sees like that like solitary dot like go up on her monitor, and it's like, who is that? And just starts talking with Spencer, and like you can get across that she is kind of in awe of the fact that Spencer's doing this at all, because she didn't believe in Spencer even up till then. Like she still was like, oh, I thought you were going to betray us and you didn't, and I guess you're not.
Well, and the scene there at the very end when she's like begging Spencer to come back instead of go to the stars is such a different take on, you know, the entire rest of the book. She's like, nope, I will cut you down any way I can. And then she's like, no, just come back. And Spencer, I love the distractedness of Spencer's like, I don't have anything to fire, so I'll be easy to take out if I need.
But like, it's interesting you bring that up because like Chaser asked permission.
Yeah.
And she's the one that gave it.
I trust
and it
you.
Did not. I think a lot of her issue with Spencer is that like, I think she probably blames herself for like what happened to her friend.
Yeah.
Like her friend went insane because like she gave the okay. I think what happened with Spencer and her family like got overblown because like her mother like wouldn't go along with the lie. That like I think if like her mother had gone along with the lie, like Judy like would not have been as antagonistic as she was. But it's because it's like, no, like I'm trying to like protect your family and you're just not working with me. I can't tell you that that's why I'm doing this. So, but in that frustration just like festered into anger. Seeing Chaser's daughter, like being Chaser's daughter in every way that matters. Like, I think that was painful for her.
Yeah.
She makes so much sense as a character going through this, and it makes total sense that she's like, yeah, the defect, no, we need to chop that out. Like, that is not good. Which, like, makes sense from her perspective. Like, what a great a human antagonist to deal with in this book, where it's like it absolutely makes sense. And also, I do just love Spencer, the whole scene when she's watching the Battle of Alta, Spencer, and she's like, "Oh yeah, my father didn't run away," and then he comes back and it's worse. Yeah, it's like, no, we lied. The cover up was for your benefit. Actually, it's like, it's so good. I love that.
And like just having Ivans as the interlude through character, and like even that first interlude where she's writing out the letters for the dead pilots and like Cobb comes after her, and just the end of it where he asks her like, would you have wished this like command position on anyone else? And she says no, and she hates it. She hates what she has to do, but she feels like it's her duty. It's her duty.
It's her duty. Yeah.
Like she has to stand up and do it because they don't have people to do that, and she doesn't want to thrust it on someone else.
Yeah.
And like she's such a great example of like, being an antagonist is not the same as being a villain. Like she is not the villain of this book, but she's the antagonist because she's working against the protagonist.
Yeah.
And she is in an untenable situation. Like the DDF is fighting an unwinnable war. She's doing the best she can.
And like she's like downright respectful to like Spencer in the cockpit. It's like, you get down that life buster, and Spencer's like, I have to ram it. She's like, okay, do that. And just like there's not that antagonism anymore because it doesn't matter.
Something I just remembered is until the pilot test, Spencer doesn't know that Ivans doesn't like her. And Spencer's like really holds her in really high regard. And it's only like from that point onward that Spencer's aware of everything. And then there was just this one line, and I'd forgotten about it till now. But yeah, like she really looked up to Ivans.
Yeah.
Which, like, why wouldn't she?
Yeah.
It's all these brutal moments in this book that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what really makes this book really special.
Yeah.
On another character related note, I think one reason why I felt like the later books didn't match this one is that Spencer needed to like it took a lot of effort to have Spencer be integrated in Skyward Flight. That was a big deal in this book. And I think that's kind of the thing why the later books feel different, because like she worked so hard to have this crew, and then she's like, I'm out. So
it's like that's getting into the whole expectations problem.
Yeah.
Whereas like this, from your perspective, like this was an ensemble book rather than like this is Spencer and Mbot book, and then there's like some cool side characters, but like they're not important. Versus like, no, this is everybody's book.
Because like the other characters, like they do exist beyond Spencer. They don't really have stories beyond Spencer. Like the only reason we know about them in this story is because of their attachments to Spencer herself.
That's actually highlighted really well when they're all laughing. I think it's Kimmelin talks about like a story with a squirrel, and everybody starts laughing, and Spencer is like, I have no idea what's going on. And I think that's a great, couple of lines to illustrate that these characters kind of exist outside as related to Spencer.
I don't know if I thought of it as an ensemble. I would more describe it as, though Spencer and Mbot talked a lot, the people she was interacting with the most were the flight, I feel like. And so, like, given the amount of screen time and effort and, like, pulling at our heartstrings that this book does, like, I think that's why I have that feeling. And I do still have that same feeling on a reread. Like, that didn't diminish at all. Like, you just grow very attached to those characters. Because they're the ones who died, and it's so stressful that the other ones died, I think.
Speaking of characters that did not die, but definitely start out a relationship sort of in this book. Jorgen and Spencer, guys.
Yeah.
Who like, I guess, picked up on it originally versus on reread, knowing where it goes, and because like I could always see it. I was like, well, clearly it's an enemies to lovers. It's right there from the beginning when she punches him.
I shipped her and Reg when I first started reading it, but I was because they're best friends. It makes sense.
That's fair.
It like when you very first start reading it, but by the end of the book, like when did I start thinking of him as distinguished? And like by the end of my first read through of the book, I was like, okay, I'm down for her. And I can't say his name right now suddenly, but Jerkface, her and Jerkface.
I was kind of spoiled on this because this book came out in 2018.
Yep.
I went to an event where Brandon was like earlier that year, and I hadn't read Skyward, but people there had read Skyward. And somebody mentioned about like, I like how like they're not together at the end of the book, but like there's like something that could be there. So like I went into the book thinking like, okay, this is obviously going to be endgame by the end of the series. Obviously. Yeah. And like reading it, like it's super obvious. Like, of course they're going to end up together.
Totally blindsided me the first time I read the book because I'm an idiot. Very obvious on a reread, though. Like, very obvious. Like, especially when Cobb was like, hey, no, don't flirt. So it's like, oh, okay. It's like right there. It's right there. It's very obvious in this. So completely blindsided me in the first book. But I do really like how their relationship evolved over the book. Like it is fascinating how that's worked.
Because like it's not rushed.
No,
like it happens very organically. Like
they get enough head bashing, but also like Jorgen like protects Spencer when Spencer's like trying to turn herself in. Oh, it's good. Yeah. It's so good.
She has all of these misconceptions about him that like as soon as she finds out like just how praiseworthy he's been about her, like they just all get shown in a different light. And the two scenes that I've always loved is like the one where he goes after her when she's going after Hurl's crash ship, and like they give Hurl a burial and stuff. But also there's the scene where they're in like the hangar bay, I think, and like she just doesn't know what to do, and she just like kind of collapses against him. I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going, but okay. And it's just like it's a scene like that where you could take it romantic very quickly. But Brandon didn't, and I think the relationship is better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love like Spencer realizing that it's like, oh, even though he has all of this like power, right? He is like really shackled by it in a way. And that was really interesting to hear her learn about this. And really, this series really is about Spencer learning about people who are very different from Spencer, which like that I really like. That's a through line.
And like the scene where he says like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be a pilot for 6 months. And then I'm going to be called away.
And he doesn't want it.
But it's so clear, like he wants to fly. He wants to like help fight the Krell. But to his parents, it's all a political game.
Yep.
I also love the scene where she tells him, oh yeah, I stole the energy cell from your hover car. And he's like, oh, that was you? I just like thought a maintenance guy came and took it. I'm like, and he didn't think to follow up. Like, oh, no, he did follow up. And like they made excuses because like they had no idea what happened. But it's just
very funny. He's just on a totally different plane and just like not worried about it at all. So good.
Yeah.
Knowing where it goes with Jorgen and like his parents and stuff in the novellas definitely really hits home with his parents playing political games in this book. Like that hurts.
It's very true. Mish, you brought up Rig I really like how Spencer and Rig's relationship went in this book, because that was another, like, it didn't feel rushed at all. It like had just enough time where like Rig gets caught up with Spencer. It's like, yeah, of course I want to be a pilot. Like, yeah, that's so cool. But then he's like, oh, what do I want? And then he figures out what he wants, and he's really good at it. It's like, oh, it's so good. I love it so much.
Yeah, because like that is kind of a trope of like the bombastic, outgoing person kind of subsuming the quieter, like more passive person like into like their things. Like, no, like this is always what you wanted to do. It's never been what I wanted to do.
Well, and what I love about that in particular is a lot of the time when you see that falling out, it destroys the relationship and it's thrown at the outgoing person. It's, no, this is always what you wanted, not what I wanted. And Rig is not, that's not what it is. At the end of it, they're still friends. They're still, like, Spencer doesn't go and see him for a while because she's caught up in flight school. But when she needs him, he's there for her. And it's not a, well, we're burning this relationship to the ground. It's just a simple, no. Yeah. This isn't what I wanted.
My parents only had one kid, but still I somehow have a sister who's always trying to get me into trouble. Love it.
With Spencer, like, being that, like, outgoing person who pulled Rig in to, like, pilot school for so long, she kind of does it again with Embot. Like, she's the one who pulls him out of bed at midnight to go work on a ship in the middle of a cave. And that's how he finds his passion.
Yeah. But to an extent, there's also, I love the fact that to an extent, he wouldn't have found his passion if it weren't for Spencer, because he does find his passion in building the ships and working on ships, but he wouldn't have found that if it weren't for Spencer kind of pushing him outside of his comfort zone.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Maybe he would have picked like engineering, like as a career, because like he had offers from a lot of different groups.
Everyone.
He was a very smart kid who just didn't quite know which direction he wanted to go in, and which sometimes you gotta get that hands-on experience before you make the decision.
I don't know if any of us on that call, on this call, or people in the comments can empathize with that at all. That sounds completely baffling. That doesn't sound like exactly the same thing.
Knowing what you want to do at the age of 17? What?
Yeah, right.
Thank you for watching. You can find us at 17thchart.com for all the news, discussion, theories, and fun you could ever want. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud. You can leave us a review on iTunes. You can subscribe on YouTube. And you can also support us on Patreon. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.